guys, we got a really exciting video today. It's actually a suggestion from my brother Rashad, and he wanted me to cover some of the aspects of the cold approach. Now, I know what you're thinking. When you think about the cold approach, you think, oh, well, I can't talk to girls, or for you girls out there, I'm pretty sure you're thinking, oh, well, the guy should approach me. I shouldn't do anything. Um, and that's really not the case, especially not in today's society. So today we're going to cover things for both guys and girls. So girls, don't worry. We're going to give you some tips too. What I want to touch on first is actually the most important thing about cold approaches, and that is the aspect of observation. Now, when you think observation, of course, that is the ability to observe things. I know it's a little obvious, but it's very important. When you think about observation in the sense of these situations, I'll call them situations. There really are social situations, but anyway, when you think about these situations and how observation applies to them, it's being able to observe things about the person before you actually make the approach. Now, what I mean by that is, I'll use an example, and I actually use this with a lot of my students as well, is let's take, for instance, that there's a girl with a group of friends. Let's say 2 friends, 3 friends. And you happen to notice that there is a plate of Asian food sitting in front of the girl that you actually want to approach. Now, my advice for that would be to be able to notice that. And once you make that observation, when you make your approach, make the approach about something other than what you actually want to have happen. Do not make your intentions the... okay, let's see. Don't make the initial part of what you're doing the focus. When you make your approach, you want to be able to make the conversation about something other than what you're actually trying to do, diverting the attention. And what I mean is, when you approach the person, when you approach this girl, you want to be able to say, hey, is that the Asian food from that new restaurant? And, make it about something other than just like, oh, well, I think you're attractive. I want to take you on a date. You don't want to do that. That's a bad idea. It's a bad idea. That seems very desperate. Trust me. Now, once you start to get that, and that's really your icebreaker there, that's going to help break a lot of the awkward tension, and that's really your opener, and you want to make it really good. You want to make it really good, and you don't exactly have to make it extravagant, it just has to be effective. And using that tool of observation, like I said, is a really effective way of making a good opening statement. Now, once you make the opening statement, a lot of guys that I teach and help with these lessons and everything, the one thing that they tell me is, I can't hold the conversation after I get it open. And that's really one thing that a lot of guys should work on, is being able to just hold a conversation. When I say that you should observe things about the person, the observation does not stop after you do your initial approach. The observation continues throughout the conversation. Let's say that the girl has on a sweatshirt from a certain college. Perhaps you should ask her a question about where she's from. If she has on a Kentucky sweatshirt or a Tennessee sweatshirt, and, I'm really getting on the nerves of a lot of USC and Georgia students right now, but I'm sorry. But if she happens to be wearing a Tennessee or Kentucky sweatshirt, or a USC sweatshirt, or Georgia sweatshirt, ask her about if she's from there. Ask her if she's from that state. If she is, then ask her about her hometown. What it's like there compared to, being where you're at now. If you're not from the same state, of course. But, yeah, that's another example of keeping observation going throughout the conversation. And it really makes for interesting conversation whenever you show the girl that you're actually interested in learning about her and actually see things about her before you actually ask her out. That's really one of the main things that you need to have to be able to keep conversations going. Now, to go a little bit more in depth, whenever they say that they can't hold the conversation, they say that they keep the observation going and they can notice things about them, but they don't exactly know how to say things whenever they notice it. And my advice for that is work on that. Now, if you have female friends, that's perfect. Use that on them. Let them help you. As far as, whenever they're wearing a certain outfit, or if they have a certain thing on their book bag, like a pin or a patch from like a music festival, or stickers or anything, just ask them about it. And try to hold that conversation, because the easiest people to talk to are family and friends. So use them anytime you can, just to build your conversation skills. And once you learn to build your conversation skills and, get those really fine-tuned, you'll notice that you'll be able to do this in these high-stress situations, which is, typically talking to the opposite sex. Now, the next tip that I have for you guys is being able to seal the deal. Sealing the deal, we aren't exactly talking about anything like funny business or anything, but I want to kind of comment on that. When I say seal the deal, I mean, getting the number, getting a date, and that is probably one of the hardest things to do, and I'm sure most of you know that, but I just wanted to go ahead and state the obvious for those who don't know. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to give you a few pointers on being able to seal the deal. Now, let's say you've made it to the part of the conversation where you're really doing well, and it's just, things are just flying off and, taking off, and you're having a really good conversation, but now you're ready to go in and ask for the date. You're ready to go in and ask for the number. And the way to do that is just make it interesting. Make it an interesting way. Don't just come right out and say, "Can I have your number?" or "Can I take you out on a date?" You don't want to do that. You don't want to do that. That's not a good way to do things, because you've built all this interesting conversation and you've shown that you're an interesting person. Now finish off that way. You got to go big or go home. That's the way it goes. When you want to be that attention grabber, when you want to be the option, not an option, you have to be able to keep that interest. And so when you're doing these things, you have to be able to seal the deal with a big bang. Now, like I said before, it doesn't have to be extravagant. It does not have to be extravagant. It just has to be effective. Now, my advice for this would be, put it in a different way. You know how guys typically ask for numbers. "Well, let me get your number. Let me take you out on a date." But no, don't do that. Don't do that. My advice would be to say something along the lines of, "Oh, so you're going to text me, right?" Or something along the lines of, "Oh, yeah, whenever I'm free, we can hang out." Don't make it seem like your only intention is just to get a number or to get a date, like you have nothing better to do. You don't want to seem like that, because then it's just that everything that you do, everything in your existence is just focused on them. And the reason I say that is, girls are going to be more attracted to guys who actually have a life. That's true. If you have a life, you're going to be more attractive. If you don't have a life and you wake up every morning saying, "Oh, well, I wonder how many girls I can go meet," you're probably not going to have as much success with women as you think. Now, the reason I say that is women are more attracted to people who actually are going somewhere. When you have access to things, when you have resources, when you have connections. So going out and living life and meeting women is so much more effective than just going out and looking for women. And that is going to be the biggest difference whenever you start to see and implement these things that I'm telling you. Now that's it for the tips for the guys. Now we got to move on to the girls. As far as the girls, I know you think that guys should just approach you all the time, but I know there are girls out there that just think that no guy will ever approach them, so they have to do it themselves. And I'm perfectly fine with that. I would advise you to be careful when doing that, but there are ways for you to do this as well. And when you do, you're actually at an advantage. You're actually at an advantage because, if you approach a guy, sometimes it's so nerve-wracking for guys to approach women that whenever a woman approaches them, they're automatically down for anything. And again, no funny business, but, they'll be pretty much down for anything. They'll be willing to give you their number. They'll be willing to, talk, have conversations, go out on dates, you're at an advantage. And you know, there's a lot of things that go on these days as far as attractive girls getting away with just being attractive and not having a personality. But we'll touch on that in another video, not to get off on a tangent. But, you know, I want to give you some tips as far as approaching guys. Now, me being a guy, I think I'm qualified to know a little bit about this, along with, you know, me having a bunch of information to give you on these topics. But again, not to get on another tangent, for the girls, the first tip is to not be nervous. If you're willing to approach a guy, you cannot be nervous. That nervousness shows, that timidness shows, and that can really be a detrimental thing. Now, some guys will say, oh, that's cute, or, you know, they'll say, oh, well, she's so sweet, but, you know, that wears off. That wears off. And, you know, eventually it gets down to where they learn about who you are. And if you show that you're a nervous person, that you're a timid person, a lot of guys will not be attracted to that after more than maybe a month. And that's where a lot of relationships go wrong, is because guys get attracted to that, and then all of a sudden it wears off and there's nothing there. There's no connection, there's no chemistry anymore. And you know, so don't be timid, don't be nervous, you know, just approach them like you know they're going to say yes. And that's the biggest thing. That's pretty much observation to the girls. The next tip I'm going to give you is don't be afraid to put yourself out there. Now, I know that sounds a little bit like nervousness and timidness, but again, it's a little bit different. And what I mean is, whenever you're putting yourself out there, you're allowing yourself to be open. And whenever you're open, guys are more accepting to you. Now, don't be afraid to be shot down. And that goes into, you know, being more open. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there. If you're a successful person, you have to know how to deal with rejection. And when you know how to deal with rejection, you're able to move on a lot quicker and be more successful. So, girls, don't be afraid to put yourselves out there. If you really feel like a guy is not going to approach you, do not be afraid to put yourself out there. Even if you get rejected 1 time, 2 times, 100 times, 200 times. Now, hopefully not 200 times. But don't be afraid to put yourself out there. And I would also advise you to use the observation tools like I talked about with the guys segment of this video. So, you know, be observant about the guy, because just like you enjoy guys who observe things about you and are interested in you, a guy, even though they may not admit it, they are actually interested in girls that are interested in them. That's really where that chemistry will be built off of. If both of you can hit it off and really observe things about each other and have interest in each other, then chemistry will build. And that goes for guys and girls. So, guys, I would go more in depth. If you want me to make another video going more in depth on this topic, just let me know. Leave a comment down here below the video. And I guess we'll see you guys on the next video.